This is the story of a hero who did everything right, who tamed a winged horse, killed a monster that should have killed him, and rose to the very top of the mortal world and then lost all of it in a single moment of pride. His name was Bellerophon, and for a time he was the greatest hero in Greece, the man who rode the immortal winged stallion Pegasus across the sky. But the same boldness that made him a legend would, in the end, destroy him. Not satisfied with being the greatest of men, Bellerophon decided that he would fly up to Olympus itself and take his place among the gods. And the gods do not share their mountain with mortals. What happens to a hero who climbs too high, who is given wings, and forgets that he was only ever lent them? That is the question at the heart of this story. So tonight, you'll hear the real tale of Bellerophon, the false accusation that nearly killed him, the winged horse he tamed, the monster he slew, and the long, lonely fall that waited at the end of his glory. If you enjoy these stories, take a moment to subscribe. It genuinely keeps this channel alive, and tell me in the comments which myth you'd like next. Now settle in, and let's meet the hero who flew too high. Bellerophon was a prince of Corinth, that great city set high on its rock above the sea, and from his youth there was something special about him, a boldness and a brightness that marked him out for great things. Some said his true father was not the mortal king of Corinth at all, but Poseidon, the god of the sea and of horses, which would explain the uncanny gift he had with them. But Bellerophon's early life took a dark turn. Through some terrible accident, the killing of a man, perhaps even of his own brother, the details lost in the oldest versions, he was stained with the guilt of bloodshed and forced to leave his home. He went as an exile to the city of Turin to be purified and taken in by its king, a man named Proetus. And Proetus welcomed him warmly, as the sacred laws of hospitality demanded, cleansing the young man of his guilt and treating him as an honored guest in his house. For a while, Bellerophon had found a refuge. But that refuge was about to become a trap, and the danger would come not from any enemy, but from inside the royal household itself, and from a lie that Bellerophon had done nothing whatsoever to deserve. The queen of Tiryns, the wife of King Proetus, looked at the handsome young hero living under her roof, and she conceived a desire for him. Quietly, she let him know her feelings and waited for him to respond. But Bellerophon was an honorable man and a guest in her husband's house, and he refused her, gently perhaps, but completely. He would not betray the king who had taken him in. And the queen's desire, once rejected, curdled instantly into hatred. Frightened that Bellerophon might tell her husband what had passed between them, she decided to strike first. She went to King Proetus and told him a lie, the exact reverse of the truth. It was Bellerophon, she claimed, who had insulted her honor and tried to wrong her, and he must die for it. Proetus was caught in a terrible bind. He believed his wife, and he burned to avenge the insult, but Bellerophon was his guest, purified at his own hearth, and to kill a guest with his own hands would call down the wrath of the gods upon him. So the king devised a way to have Bellerophon killed without ever touching him. He would send the young man on a journey, carrying a sealed message, and that message would be his death sentence. Proetus gave Bellerophon a sealed tablet and asked him to carry it to the king of Lycia, a land far across the sea, the queen's own father, a powerful ruler named Iobates. Bellerophon, suspecting nothing, took the folded message and set out, proud to be trusted with a royal errand, carrying without knowing it the instructions for his own murder. For inside that sealed tablet, Proetus had written a request that the man who delivered this message should be put to death. This is the origin of a phrase the Greeks remembered for centuries, to carry a Bellerophontic letter, a message that secretly condemns the very person delivering it. When Bellerophon arrived in Lycia, King Iobates received him generously and feasted him for 9 days before so much as asking his business, again, the sacred law of hospitality at work. But on the 10th day, the king asked to see the message his guest had carried. He broke the seal and read his son-in-law's terrible request. And now Iobates faced the very same impossible problem. Proetus had, he could not simply murder a man who had eaten at his table as a guest. So he too looked for a way to send Bellerophon to a death that would not be on his own hands. And he found the perfect instrument. In the mountains of Lycia, there lived a monster. The monster was the Chimera, one of the most fearsome creatures in all of Greek myth. It was a single beast made of three, a lion at the front, a goat rising from its back, and a serpent for a tail, and from its jaws it breathed living fire. It had been ravaging the countryside of Lycia, burning fields and devouring livestock and people alike, and no one had been able to stand against it. So King Iobates asked his guest, with every show of respect, to rid the land of the Chimera, certain that he was sending the young man to a fiery death. It should have been impossible. But Bellerophon had help that no one expected. Before facing the monster, he sought the favor of the gods, and the goddess Athena came to his aid. She gave him a marvelous gift, a bridle of pure gold. For there was, near the city of Corinth, a wondrous creature that no mortal had ever been able to tame, Pegasus, the immortal winged horse, white as sea foam, who drank at a sacred spring. Many had tried to capture him and failed. But with Athena's golden bridle, Bellerophon crept up on the winged stallion as he drank and slipped the bridle gently over his head, and Pegasus, calmed by the divine gift, accepted him as his rider. Now the hero had wings. Mounted on Pegasus, Bellerophon rose into the sky to face the Chimera, and at last he had the one advantage that could defeat such a monster. He could attack from above, out of the reach of those terrible fiery jaws. Again and again he swooped down on the beast from the air, raining spears and arrows, while the Chimera roared and breathed its flames uselessly toward a rider it could not catch. But the monster's fire was its deadliest weapon, and Bellerophon needed a way to finish it for good. The old stories tell of his cleverness here. He is said to have fixed a lump of lead to the point of his spear, and on his next dive, he drove that spear straight into the creature's blazing mouth. The Chimera's own fiery breath melted the lead, and the molten metal poured down its throat, killing the monster from the inside. The terror of Lycia was dead, slain by a hero on a flying horse, and Bellerophon flew back to the city in triumph, expecting the gratitude of the king. But Iobates was not finished. Convinced there must be some reason his son-in-law wanted this man dead, he sent Bellerophon against one deadly enemy after another, fierce warrior tribes, raiders, the most dangerous foes in his whole kingdom. And Bellerophon, with Pegasus beneath him, overcame every one of them. At last King Iobates understood. No ordinary man could have survived the Chimera, let alone every other peril thrown at him. The gods themselves were clearly with this hero. Whatever the sealed letter had claimed, Bellerophon was no villain. He was a man marked out for greatness. And so the king abandoned his attempts to kill his guest and embraced him instead. He gave Bellerophon his daughter in marriage, made him a prince of Lycia, and granted him a great portion of his kingdom. Bellerophon had reached the summit of everything a mortal could hope for. He had survived a death sentence he never deserved. He had tamed the untamable horse, slain the unslayable monster, defeated every enemy set before him. He was rich, he was royal, he was beloved, and he rode the immortal Pegasus across the sky like a god. By every measure, his story should have ended right there, the falsely accused exile who triumphed over everything and won a kingdom. That is where a happy tale would close. But Bellerophon's story is not a happy tale, because somewhere in all that glory, something in the hero began to change. He had done what no other mortal could do. And slowly, dangerously, he began to wonder whether he was really immortal at all. Bellerophon looked at all he had achieved, and his pride swelled until it overflowed the bounds of what any mortal should ever think. He had flown where only gods and birds could go. He had done the impossible again and again. Why, then, should he remain down here among ordinary men? He decided that he belonged with the gods themselves, and he turned Pegasus toward the heights of Mount Olympus, intending to fly up and take a seat among the immortals, uninvited. It was the one truly unforgivable thing, a mortal trying to force his way into the company of the gods. Zeus, watching from above, was not impressed by Bellerophon's boldness, he was offended by it. And he answered it almost contemptuously. As horse and rider climbed higher and higher into the sky, the king of the gods sent down a single tiny thing, a gadfly, a biting insect which stung Pegasus sharply beneath the wing. The great horse reared and bucked in sudden pain, and Bellerophon, caught off guard at a tremendous height, was thrown from the saddle. Pegasus flew on without him, up to the stables of Olympus, where the gods would keep him to carry their thunderbolts. But Bellerophon fell. Down and down, all the long way back to the earth he had grown too proud to walk upon. Bellerophon survived the fall, and for the Greeks, that was the cruelest part of all. The gods did not let him die a hero's clean death. Instead, he was left broken and lamed by his terrible plunge, and worse than the broken body was the broken life that followed. The man who had ridden the skies now wandered the earth alone, crippled and shunned, avoiding the paths of other people, eating out his own heart with grief, as one old poet put it, hated by the gods he had presumed to join, and pitied by the men he had once towered above. He had possessed everything and lost all of it, not to an enemy or a monster, but to his own pride. There is a hard symmetry in his story that the Greeks loved and feared in equal measure. Bellerophon was given wings, the golden bridle, the immortal horse, the favor of the gods, and for a while those wings carried him higher than any mortal had ever flown. But they were always a gift, always lent, never truly his own. And the moment he forgot that, the moment he mistook the gift for his right, he fell. The very wings that had raised him so high were exactly what made his fall so far. If this is the kind of story you want more of, take a moment to subscribe and tell me in the comments which myth I should tell next. Sleep well.